Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Patrick Sasser. I'm the founder and organizer of No Tolls CT. I sat in front of this committee last year, and here I am again, shocked and amazed at what I've been listening to today and for the past year. I can't believe a representative just sat up here and talked about how he leaves Connecticut and buys gas in Rhode Island, goes shopping in Rhode Island, goes to dinner in Rhode Island because Connecticut costs too much. And here the body of this legislation wants to tax the people even more with tolls. I sat and listened to the governor speak at 10 o'clock this morning, and he talks about kicking the can down the road and we're going to stop it. Many of you legislators that work in this building have been doing it for decades. And here it is, falling on the backs of the taxpayers once again. When does it stop? Mr. Haskell, you mentioned that you were elected and telling people...
Mr. Sasser, hold on.
I'll speak to the committee. I'm sorry.
Hold on. Mr. Sasser,
yep.
You need to take it down a notch. This is an open discussion. You go through the chair. We do not address different... And we don't call people out here.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman.
This is a respectful chamber. We will treat it as such. I understand your passion and your anger, but you need to take it down.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Otherwise, you will not be allowed to talk.
Understood. So back to my point, several representatives and senators in the legislative building have talked about how their constituents want tolls and that they ran on that fact. The fact is we had a governor campaign on truck-only tolling. The public was lied to. The voters were lied to. A promise was broken. So the frustration, the trust has been broken with the taxpayers in this state. And that's why we're so passionate about this. I know you all have a difficult job. I know it's not easy. But when do the taxpayers of Connecticut finally get a break? It is so difficult to survive and live in this state, day to day. People that own businesses, and several people talked today about the business community, the business community. What about us, the small businesses? What about the nurse that travels 40 miles a day, single mother, to get to Stanford Hospital to work all day, and then has to drive back 40 miles to get back home to take care of her kids, and has to pay these tolls? We talk about discounts for tolls. What discounts? What are the numbers of these discounts? You know what it should be? It should be zero. We pay our fair share already in this state. That's why I'm here today to testify. That's why there's still people sitting behind me to testify on this. We have 53,000 people that have signed our online petition already, and that number is growing every single day. Because people are fed up with it. There has to be better solutions and better ways of doing it than putting in 53 to 82 tolls peppered throughout our state. And people want to say we need to be like New Jersey? When did Connecticut want to be like New Jersey? Massachusetts has one turnpike with 13 tolls on it. Think of that.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Devlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Patrick, for being here. I completely understand your frustration and your passion around this issue. I hear the same thing. And you have provided an organization that has made it easier for the residents of Connecticut who may or may not know how or get the attention of their legislators to share their voice. But my question to you is one more around your direct business. So I understand that you have some trucks. I don't know, that's about all I know. So could you tell me from an individual perspective as a business owner, what would this mean to you?
Correct. Okay. First off, I am a full-time career firefighter for the city of Stamford. I am an owner-operator of a small excavating company, and I'm also partners with two of my brothers that we own 2 dump trucks for our trucking business. I am small potatoes, and this is not why I started this fight 2 years ago or last year against tolls. It's because I'm a taxpayer in this state. But the impact on the tolls for a business sense and any other business that speaks about it, we will have no choice but to pass those costs down. And when you look at the videos and the testimonies that were done, they were put on YouTube of about 12 or 15 local companies in our own state, and they talk about the $50 to $100 to $200,000 they're going to incur from tolls. They make it very clear they're going to pass that cost along to the consumer, us. We're going to pay for the tolls when we drive down the highway. We're going to pay for them again when we go shopping in the stores. And we're going to pay for them on our local roads when people get off the highway to avoid tolls, because it's congestion tolling.
Thank you for your answer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sasser, for your comments today. And you are to be commended for the organization that you've helped lead. And that has driven thousands of pieces of testimony to the General Assembly. I mean, you've done a wonderful job in organizing. It is to be commended, and certain advocacy groups across the state would love to model how you've been able to build that organization.
On a shoestring budget.
And you are to be, and I'm serious. I am serious. You are to be commended. It
Thank
is
you. Thank you, Mr.
impressive
Chairman.
what you've been able to do. I would just ask you to understand that those of us who think tolling is a potential option aren't engaging this as a money grab. We're not trying to drive businesses out or hurt the nurses going to school or going to the hospital. We see the same things that you do. We see an infrastructure that's falling apart and collapsing. We see a lack of investment for our businesses, for commuters, for our places of tourism, for places of employment. We're hearing from industry leaders, environmental leaders, labor leaders, people who work and would build these 21st century transportation options. We've seen other states make dramatic leaps forward in how the type of transportation they can offer to their consumers makes business find that community more attractive. I know it's easy to point at government and say, you people doing all of this wrong. I promise you, you're pointing at people who are just as sincere in their hope that we can build a better future for our state as you. And so I hope over the next few weeks we don't lose sight of that we keep our eyes on the ball. I think you and I could agree that statement, that slide earlier in the day where we said over 1,500 miles of Connecticut roads are rated in poor condition. Hundreds of bridges rated in poor condition. That the average age of our most traversed railways in Connecticut are over 100 years old. That the average bridge in Connecticut is 53 years old, 11 times the national average, 11 years more than the national average. Despite new technology and new trains, it's slower to get from New Haven, Bridgeport, and Stamford into New York City than it was 30 years ago. That mayors and first selectmen, both Republican and Democrat, have come to this body asking for train stations, for asking for stops on fast track, for hoping to expand lines into the Valley and up to New Canaan. Everyone believes in the investment in transportation. We have a disagreement on how to get there. And there's sincerity on both sides about how to do it. And so it's my hope that your organization recognizes that those people who are pro-tolls aren't out to grab money out of everyone's pocket, but instead to try to provide the same future that you're envisioning for our state. And so hopefully the next few weeks we can have a real conversation and not a rhetoric fight. And you have my commitment to work on that.
Sir, I promise you it's not rhetoric. I promise you that. And I appreciate you reading those bullet points again. But the fact is, communities are speaking up. And I'm happy that both of my senators from Stamford are sitting right in front of me. Because the city of Stamford spoke up. The town of Trumbull spoke up. The town of Sherman spoke up. The town of Enfield has spoken up. And many more others are going to speak up on this topic.
Thank you. Hold on, Mr. Speaker. Yep. Thank you, Patrick. And you're right. People are speaking up. And to be fair, people are speaking up on both sides. You don't like tolls, I get it. I get people that say they do like it from my town, your town. So we're trying to figure out where we need to go on that argument. So I understand and I appreciate that people are speaking up. That's what they're supposed to do, to tell us what they feel. But you're not the only voice. There are others as well.
Oh, you're right, Senator. There are many other voices behind me. That's true.
And we'll hear from all, pro and con. I get the point. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Sasser, thank you for your testimony. It's nice to actually meet you. I think we've spoken a couple times on Facebook.
I think you were sitting over there last year.
I don't know if I sat in the meeting. I might.
Oh, you were
have
here.
been
I
over
think
here.
you were chairman, yeah.
No, no. Actually, no, it's Tony Guerrero.
Oh,
Different
maybe
guy,
you're
much
right.
better looking, more hair. Not that much more.
I've lost a lot more since last year.
Well, hopefully we'll limit that for you and engage you in the conversation. And look, I understand what you're saying. None of us came to this Capitol to just figure out more ways to take money from people. But what we did come to this Capitol is try to make our state a better place. And I think Chairman Lamar talked of it earlier. So did Chairman Leone and many of the members. See, this is the problem, and this is the problem I have with the cities you listed off moving forward for no tolls. Because those are the exact same cities that are up here every single year asking for more money. They're asking for more money in ECS funding. They're asking for more money in special education funding. They're coming up here with bills to have their schools bonded. They're coming up here for their parks to be bonded. They're coming up here with project after project. They even come up here saying they have a business that wants to move to town. Can you give us an exemption and allow us to offer them tax breaks? And I get it. Each municipality has to look at it, but we have to look at the state as a whole. And the answers aren't so easy. We always hear, just cut spending. That's great on its face. I sat in a room with both Democrats and Republicans for almost 6 months, every single day, 12 hours a day, trying to find $400 million in cuts so we can pass a budget and send it back to the communities. It was hard because every line item in a budget also has a person's face next to it. If it was MSP, it was dropping it to 100% poverty from 211%. On paper, it looks 211% of poverty for Medicare savings program. We can cut a little bit. Those people will survive. No, we received almost 200,000 phone calls from people saying that's the difference between being able to make it and not make it. So look, I understand that tolling isn't the perfect option, but I will tell you this. As long as I've been involved in the budget process, and you guys can try to look at me, Democrat Speaker of the House, we know how he votes. No, I voted against budgets before 2010. When I came into leadership, I said I was going to do it differently. I involved Republicans in the process as equal members, no catches. I'm not trying to play gotcha. But what I will tell you is in pension funds, debt, and transportation, we haven't done our jobs. The money is not available to do what we need to do. There will be a bridge collapse. There will be something terrible happen in this state. And you look at neighboring states, the only way out of this budget crisis, and I think I'll get agreement on all parties, how we get there is different, is through economic development. I can take liberties and speak as long as I want without questions, just to be clear. So, getting there is difficult. So now I will get to a question. I understand what you're saying. Towns are frustrated and they're saying no more. We've sort of had the dialogue with Representative Steinberg back and forth about bonding with Senator Logan. Those same municipalities, are they in agreement if we prioritize progress, that they're going to forego any school construction, forego their ECF funding, forego any LoCIP funding to ensure that we have the funds available to prevent a tragedy or to bring our transportation infrastructure in the state of Connecticut into the 21st century?
Sir, I'm not an elected official. I don't know that answer.
Okay, thank you.
But I can
appreciate
speak
the
to you.
honesty,
I can
genuinely.
speak to you as a taxpayer.
Okay.
We pay our fair share. We pay. We pay and pay and pay. And I think someone just a little bit ago spoke about property tax. I think you, Senator Bergstein, where it's a proposal to put a mill rate on our property tax to send to you all in Hartford on top of tolls. When does it stop? When does it stop? I can't speak on what municipalities want for their budgets, their money. I can tell you as a taxpayer.
It just sounded like you, I don't know if your organization, and again, your organization is...
The towns recognize the impact. You guys are talking about congestive tolling.
Do you understand the balance for us?
I get it.
They come in one hand and beg for money, and the other
I
they
get
say
it.
don't spend
I
it.
understand that. I understand that. But visualize this. 53 to 82 tolls peppered through Connecticut. And I'm a husband and father, and I live in another state, and I say, Jesus, I want to move to Connecticut because they've done such a great job with their state and all those tolls. I'm a business and I want to move to Connecticut. Jesus, I want to pay all that freight to move in and out of my state. I'm sorry that New Jersey has tolls. I'm sorry that Massachusetts has 13 of them. It's not my problem. It's not my fault. And that's why we get federal funding. Let's not forget that. It's up to you all, the elected officials, to spend our money wisely. That's all we ask. That's all we ask.
And I believe we do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The state does have many expenses. We have to pay the bills, and we have to find the money to do so. When there's a gap, that's when the problems arise, and that's where we are. We still have to find the ultimate solution, but that's where we are at the moment. You can like it or not, but that's where we are. So are there any other questions? If not, thank you, Mr. Sasser. Oh, yeah, Senator Bergstein. I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, Mr. Sasser.
Hello, Senator.
So, you and I have interacted many times before, by email, in person. You always are very angry. You've misrepresented what I've said, insulted me. I am willing to absolutely forget all of that if we can, right here, right now, in this public forum, take a deep breath and commit to being civil with one another, to being fact-based in our discussion, to not misrepresent one another or misconstrue our words. It's a radical proposal. Can we be calm and civil with one another?
Senator, I'd love an example, please.
Okay. I'll take that as a no.
Senator,
So-
I would like an example, please.
Right
You
now,
accused
this is
me
our example.
of speaking ill against you. I would like an example,
Sure.
please.
Okay, I'll take. So my original bill.
Because is your point to embarrass me
my
here
origi-
today? Because I
No,
like this.
No.
This is
My
great.
original bill.
No, Senator, I'd
never
like an
mentioned-
example. I think
Hold
you
on.
made a. She made an accusation.
I'm giving you an example.
Hold on.
Chairman.
The chair has control here. Mr. Sasser, Senator, we are talking about an opinion here on whether we are going to support or not support tolls moving forward. This discussion that was just about to happen will be taken offline. So let's stick to the facts. If
I'm
there's a
happy with
question-
that, sir. Thank you.
If there's a question, it will be answered. If not, we'll move on.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
The
Senator.
question is, have you considered the cost of not having tolls? And I know you said that you are in the trucking business. There is very robust data put out by the American Transportation Research Institute showing that the trucking industry actually suffers $74 billion in lost business every year because of congestion. And which state is in the top 5 of truck congestion? It's Connecticut. One of the smallest states has one of the highest costs per highway mile for the trucking industry because of our congestion. So there is a direct cost to your specific business for having the conditions that we have. And I'm asking you sincerely, have you considered the cost to your business of the congestion that we suffer and what it's doing to damage, to hurt your bottom line?
Yes, Senator, I have considered that. And my answer is this. My brothers and I, with our trucking company, already spend a fortune to run that small business. With the taxes we pay, the income tax we pay, the $10,000 a month in fuel bills that we pay to operate those trucks. See, we don't have the luxury to just go out and plant a money tree and pull money off it where these tolls would act in that fashion, because as we see in Pennsylvania and other states around us, when the state, they can raise those fees any moment they want. I don't have that luxury. I can't just go out there and raise my fees to my customers. So one or two things are going to happen. I'm either going to shut the business down because it's not worth it, or I'm going to pass those costs on to others. And Senator, you talk about the traffic and the congestion. And I'm glad you brought that up, because my God, all day long and for the past 2 months, all I've heard about was trains. 30, 30, 30. And then I hear everyone talk about tolls are a user fee. A user fee. But then the next sentence, we're going to speed the trains up. So how is my user fee driving on the highway supposed to be used to fix the trains and speed them up so that people can get to New York, making probably $400,000, $500,000 a year, I don't know, just a guess, to get them there 5 minutes quicker, 10 minutes quicker, is that really worth killing the Connecticut taxpayer to get that train going 5 minutes quicker on the backs of the Connecticut? So yes, Senator, to your answer, to your question, I have thought about it, and I've thought about it long and hard.
So I'm glad you raised that, because faster trains are one very demonstrable way that we can bring more companies and jobs and businesses into our state. So how do we keep our taxes low? How do we lower the property taxes in Stanford, which are too high? How do we minimize financial pressure on cities and the state overall? By bringing in new taxpayers so that the burden is not all on you or us. And the only way to do that, we ask the business community, is we need to improve mass transit and congestion. So companies like Amazon and others that employ hundreds and thousands of people are not going to be interested in moving to Connecticut unless we create the conditions that make their business possible. So I understand that there's pressure on your business, but there's pressure on all businesses and on all taxpayers in the state, and what we need to do to reduce that pressure is to grow the tax base, which means bringing in more companies and people who will put money into the system so that your tax rates don't go up. So we really have to look at this as a big picture and not just one aspect of it, tolls. It'd be like saying, you know, do you want to go to the dentist? No, nobody wants to go to the dentist. But will you go to the dentist so that you can avoid having pain and disease and surgery and other enormous costs that will happen if you don't take the preventative measure? Then the answer changes to yes. So I just encourage you to look big picture, down the road, not just for your particular business, but also for the state as a whole and for all of us taxpayers.
Thank you, Senator, and we will. And I ask you this, look for spending cuts.
We are. Thank you.
No, because I haven't heard it ever said once
Thank you, Mr.
in this
Chair.
session.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sasser. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is